Well, hello everybody. Hope you're all doing well in these uncertain times that we're having. It's becoming rather a pain in the arse, isn't it, to say the least. I've just had my lunch and while I was in there, it's Friday today. What date are we on? It's Friday the 27th. And I just had my lunch. While I was having my lunch, I turned the news on, and it seems our Prime Minister, Bonkin Boris, has now got the virus, along with some of the others in the cabinet. So, yeah. Hopefully these people that have, well, the very few that we've got left that don't take it seriously, hopefully they bloody well do now. So. But anyway, I hope you're all well and being responsible and safe, and hope nothing ever happens to anybody. We'll see what happens. Right. Seeing as you'll be all sat at home bored shitless, I thought I ought to do something about it if I can. And we'll start to make this Arbour for this balancing jig. Now there's the jig that I did. You'll see on the top I've changed it. I machined the tops flat and I went down each side with an end mill, a carbide end mill to be fair. Somebody said in the comments, why was I bothering to try and harden this, because you can't, because it's normal mild steel. Well, my answer to that is I didn't know. I'm going to have to start and put at the beginning of all my videos now that, my videos are not meant to be now, and they never were meant to be a how-to video. I show you how I do things, and I make mistakes along the way, and the majority of people seem to understand that, but there's one or two who don't, and they leave comments, shall we say, that I'm not particularly keen on. And anyway, if they met me face to face, I know they wouldn't speak to me the way that some people write comments down, because you just wouldn't do that. Like, I was brought up that you ain't got anything good to say, best shut your mouth and say nothing. But anyway, the funny thing about this is, I heated the tops up cherry red and dipped the top part in oil. Now, if you remember when I was making this on the video, I did say several times, I don't know what sort of steel it is, but I didn't think it was normal mild steel because of the way it's machined, because it's quite tough. Now, this boxing is the same sort of boxing, this tube that you maybe call it tubular stuff in the States, but here we call it boxing. But it's what they make machinery frames out of and thing, for agriculture. So it would stand to reason, really, that maybe it's just not normal mild steel, I don't know. But I know when I come to machine the tops down, it was considerably harder than it was before I heated it up, dipped it in the oil. So I should say I've increased the hardness in it by about 20%, something like that. But yeah, I didn't know you weren't supposed to heat try to harden mild steel, blah blah blah. I've since spoken to somebody who is, let's just say, he's an expert on heat treating all different types of steels, and he basically said to me, he said, take notice, Al, he says, you're doing alright, mate. You can heat treat mild steel, you can harden it, but you won't be able to harden it very much, because you can harden just about any steel. Because I did get a little bit pissed off some comments I got, like, same as on the last video, I made that plastic adapter to go on the waste pipe from the water softener I put in my house, and somebody was saying, why was I pissing about doing that, why don't I just go and get a T, cut it in half, blah 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 blah. Well, excuse me, that's all well and good, but it was Sunday afternoon, it's a 50-mile round trip to get to the nearest merchants to where I could have got one from, because I didn't have one in my van. And I've got a lathe in my workshop and a milling machine in my workshop, 10 foot from my back door. Why wouldn't you just go out, if you had a piece of plastic, and just make it yourself? It's sat on there and it's never leaked, it's worked absolutely fine, it's doing exactly what I wanted it to do. So, like I say, sometimes you get comments, don't you, you just think to yourself, well, why do I bother? A mate of mine says, take the notice, Al, they're just keyboard warriors, which I thought was a pretty good description of them. But anyway, we'll not let that get to us. We'll carry on regardless, and if anybody doesn't like what I do, don't watch it. It is that simple. So, enough said now. So, I've got two pieces of hex bar here. Look. I can't sync that one. Yeah, that's still on. This is the piece I'm going to use to do a test cut, to make a test arbor to see if we can actually get it right. This other piece here is 8 inches long. That's what we'll make the arbor out of. If you're wondering why I'm using this hex bar, I don't think I'm being wasteful, because this particular steel, it must have a really high lead content in it, because it's really, really soft. So if I don't use it for something, it'll sit there leant against the wall for years to come and never get used. So I thought it should machine quite nicely, and that'll do to make the arbor with. So after speaking to, well actually, I'll start at the beginning. The power of the internet sometimes just bloody amazes me, because Mike, another YouTuber over in the States, hope you're alright Mike if you're watching this, when Mike was doing a video on his surface grinder, I commented that I was going to start and make some arbors for mine very shortly, and Mike said he was going to do the same thing, although he was going to wait and see what I ballsed up first, so before he did his. It was all just in jest, if you know what I mean. But Mike sent my detail, or mentioned me to another guy, and this is how weird it gets, because this guy called Dave, I can't pronounce his name, Tyhurst or Tyhurst, something like that. Dave is a retired machinist of over 35 years, I think, and he's an English guy, and he moved his workshop and everything to Australia last year, I believe it was. He now lives in Australia. So I'm an English guy obviously, and I would mention I wanted to start doing these. So the power of the internet goes like this. English guy wants to make some hubs. American guy sees what he wants to do. American guy mentions it to an English guy who lives in Australia. And then the English guy emails the other English guy, me, who lives back here. So Dave sent me some lengthy emails on how he would go about doing this, and there was a few things there that he mentioned that I just never thought of. The actual way I want to do it, to start with, I thought about doing it between centres, you know, when I make these parts, I mean. And then I remembered back to when I was making that slitting saw arbor a few videos back. When I finished that slitting saw video, the very next video I did, I can't remember what it was, I did mention on that video is to not, I wouldn't ever make an arbor between centres like that again the way I did it. You'd have to go back and watch it to see what I mean. But that's then how I was thinking of doing these, and I'll explain that in a minute. But Dave sent me some emails through, and I read them all through, and thank you very much Dave, they're very informative, and I could see you put a lot of time into them, mate. One thing that Dave mentioned that I never thought of is the arbor on the surface grinder. I've set a DTI gauge up on the side, and I found centre, zeroed that clock out, and I put another clock on the front of the machine. And what Dave suggested I do was wind the clock in by an inch, see what I get on the taper, and that should give me so many thou per inch, and then I could work that out, and then I could measure the taper I cut on the lathe to see how close I am and make any adjustments needed. But I couldn't quite get an inch, Dave, because it's just a bit awkward. So I got what I was getting, and I did it 3 or 4 times. When I wound the table in half an inch, 500 thou, I got 65 thou on the taper each time. So we're 130 thou per inch. So I thought to myself, right, well that'll do for that. We've then got to cut the taper on the lathe, haven't we, and then set a dial gauge on the travel, which is straightforward enough. I've got one on there already, imperial one, that I can move the table exactly 1 inch. And then this dial gauge here, I'm going to put on the side of the taper, and then that will give us hopefully 130 thou per inch. But what it will do, it will tell me how far out I am, because I'm not going to get this right the first time, am I? So what I thought about this the other day, and I've always struggled with dial indicators, trying to get that sweet spot of getting them smack on centre height. So I just thought, well, I'll make something. And I made that You can see those three little screws. Oh, in frame here. Yeah. Those three little screws there are what hold the gib in. I made a little cast iron gib, put a dovetail in there, made a little adjusting screw and a bolt there, and the dial indicator bolts on the end. Now, I know you can adjust the tool holder up and down, but I found that it's an absolute pain in the arse trying to do that. At least now what I can do is drop that in a tool post, lock it down, and then I can just literally turn that screw up and down. I've got the gibs just snug. I can turn it up and down, look for the high spot on the gauge, zero my clock, and then I should get hopefully a truer reading of what it is that we're after. So that's the plan, boys. So once I've got that done, hubs. What I'm going to do, or what I'm thinking I'm going to do, Dave seems to be in agreement with me as well. He sent me an email about how he would go about making these, because I wasn't too when I'd mentioned doing it between centres, I then thought back to what I did before, and he actually pretty much wrote down word for word what I was thinking. So imagine that's one piece of steel. I'm going to put that in the lathe, and I'm going to do all the machining on the front here, and even machine the diameter, I suppose, although I don't have to, I could just get that near enough. But all what you see here, counter bore in there can be machined, this can be machined to size, the threads can be cut, we've got a slight little recess in there, we've got these slots here, and I'm not really sure what they're for. Hopefully I'll get this video out either tonight or tomorrow, and somebody can maybe tell me what those slots are there for, or whether I actually need to put them in. I mean, they do, I've got two hubs, and they've both got them in, so I'm not sure. So if you imagine that's one piece of steel in the lathe, all this part's all machined up, I part it off, stand it there. If I'm going to make 6 of these, maybe, I don't know. I've got all 6 there. Then what I'm going to do is, I'm going to get another piece of steel, mount that in the lathe, I'm going to bore it, and I'm going to cut that internal thread. So then, we've got a little register there, look. And I'm going to screw that in. These are all left-handed thread, by the way. And hopefully when that's screwed in, that's going to run concentric. If I haven't machined this outside diameter to the correct size, I can then, and I can do this counter bore here, bore the middle of that out, and I can also cut that taper counter, which we'll already have set on the cross slide from when we've done the Arbour. We've got a recess in here that we don't need to worry about. That's where this particular hub had some weights in it. This is what we can make it same as this, it's just be a lot easier. I'm not going to bother trying to make weights and put them in. I think what we'll do, we'll drill the wheels like I've seen other people do, try and balance them that way. So, well, I reckon that'll do. We'll get that piece thrown into the lathe, well, not thrown in. We'll get a pinny on, get that in the lathe, and we'll start to make some chips, eh? Right, I think we're ready to give it the beans, boys. Oh dear. So this, I think, all I've really got to do is get it round. I think that should be alright. I'm going to try and do it without putting a centre in or anything. And then we'll see how we go from there. Hope I haven't upset anybody with my little rant. I do like my comments to keep coming through. I've learnt a lot from YouTube since the time I've been on it, and long may it continue, especially the piss taking ones, as long as they're sort of done in the right frame of mind. Mr. Stevens again. And that's what it should be about, shouldn't it? So we're going to run at 320. I think we'll do the obligatory clean up the end. Let me move that camera a minute. See if that's a bit better. don't know what this hex bar was ever made for, because it's really soft. Guy that I bought my old Harrison milling machine off that I had before this one I have now, he gave me quite a few lengths of it, different sizes. And at the time, I must admit, I thought, oh, that'll be handy for making bolts and things out of, because the hex is already on it. But since found out that it's that soft, it doesn't quite work like that. Right, let's have see what that does. We'll go a little deeper. I've done a week now staying at home and yeah, I've got a few things done, but boredom does tend to creep in a little bit if you're not careful. I've got lots of things I'd like to do around my house and stuff, but unfortunately we can't go to the well, we call them sheds in England. I think, you know, sort of places like Loads and Harbour Freight you have in America. I mean, we have B&Q and Wicks and places like that. But everything's closed, everything's on lockdown, like it should be. So at least I'm going to class myself as very fortunate that I've got a workshop full of machines that I can play around in. Just see if that takes that last bit off. Clean up all the way around. Yeah. So we're going to let that run to the end, and then we're going to what we're going to do next now. We're going to set the top slide at about 15 degrees. And then we'll start to put the taper on, and we'll find a bit of engineer's blue. I've got some somewhere, and we'll see how close a fit that we can get. My tool's a little below centre, looking at it. Yeah, that'll do. Right, we'll, wrong way. I'll adjust this top slide and then we'll have another go. Right, we'll try again, because somebody just turned up then, owed me some money and dropped some off. He's been out working, be one of the few that is. So, right, I've locked the carriage. We're going to go backwards and forwards with this and take a little bit off at a time, see where we get to, and bring you in a bit. What should we try? Well, put 2 mil on to start with and see where that gets us. I'm not using my taper attachment because I've got a bit of an issue on this lathe with the cross slide feed nut, I think. Something that needs to be looked at. Tell you one thing I have just realised, that tool is not quite on centre, is it? Right, see what we can do about getting it on centre, shall we? Tell you what, I'm just wondering if there's an issue with the tip, because I do believe it is. Yeah. Right. Sort that tip out first, I think. Nearly. No cigar. It's just a touch more, I think. That's got it. Right, lock the carriage again. See the difference in the finish, can't you? Right, we've got enough there to do a little test, I think. Right, unlock that. Take that out. Put that in. Get it a bit square. Now, can I do it like that? I'm not 100% sure. So we'll put a bit of, can you see that dial gauge there? Right. So that there is the high point. Just double check that. It actually works very well, that little adjuster. So that's that. So set the travel dial to 0 and we're looking for 130 thou over a 1-inch thing, aren't we? So 100, 2, 3, 4, 5, well, we're only at a ½ an inch, so have I got that wrong? Yeah, I know what I've done. What it should be, I should have set the angle on the top slide to 7.5, because it's 15° including angle. I just wasn't thinking. But not much on a big ship, as they say. Right, so there we're back to 0, 5, 6. Looks about 7.5. I suppose it's an easy mistake to make. For a plumber. I imagine that Chris Stevens fella will be thinking of a witty response on it. I'll keep going until we're somewhere light. Right, we'll do the same thing again. See, by that we're out a long way. Yeah. Right, let's see how far out we are, shall we? I did have a feeling there was going to be a fair bit of dicking around with this to get it somewhere close. We're on 0, so we'll see how repeatable it is. Right, so we'll see how repeatable this gauge is. That's actually within a thou of where I'd left it before. Quite chuffed with that. Right, we'll try again, shall we, boys? So we're looking for 130 thou over 1 inch. That's half an inch. That's 55 thou, so 1, 2. Right, so that's smack on 1 inch. And that's showing us just over 113 thou. So I think what we'll do, that's 0. That's 0. We'll try it again. Yeah, smack on 113 thou. We need to make a note of that, really, don't we? So I was looking for 130. So what are we, 17 thou out? So that needle needs to come up more. So we want slightly more of an angle on it, don't we? I think time spent doing this hopefully will be time well served. So what did I say? I'm not that. I'm actually looking at it. I was closer to the 7-degree mark than I was to the 7.5. What, the carriage again? I'm going to put light cuts on now, otherwise we're going to run out of taper if I'm not careful. Or run out of steel. Putting 0.2 of a cut on. Okay. The easiest test is to pop the hub on first, isn't it, just to see how it feels. Feels like we're still a mile out. Zero there. That's still on. Yeah, that's working really well, that little gauge with that dovetail system on it. I couldn't think of another way of doing it. I'm sure there is, but for me it seemed the easiest way. 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right, so we're now at 120, so we're getting in the right direction. So I think what we can try, slacken these two nuts off here. So we need another 10 thou on it really, that way on. Now, I don't think for 1 minute that what I've just done is going to work, but I've never done it before, so we'll give it a go, shall we? See what happens. Right, get this done again and I'll bring you back. Right chaps, I believe we've about cracked it. I've just been putting some blue on the inside of this in the yellow. We've got a bit too much in the front there. Horrible bloody stuff. Yeah, it's blue in there, and I think I've skimped the blue a little bit too much. I know you only need a tiny bit, but see if we can get a bit. Well, it won't mark at the back, so I've not got any on there. That's too much. A little bit. Right. So we'll try the blue in there, see where we get to at that. I'm not putting much pressure on that, but there is no discernible movement in that at all. You know, actually that way. Actually, not actually. You know what I mean. Everybody wears it. That's blue all the way around there. If anything, it's just a hair off. Let's see what the DTI gauge says, shall we? 0 there. Just going to check it, make sure we are. High point. God, that is repeating really well, those. I haven't even got the Gibbs tightened up in it properly yet. Right. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. A bit too much. 10. That's giving us 131 thou. And I said we wanted 130, so I'm going to go at that. Because like I say, when you put that hub on, let's try the other one. Yeah, that's just, it's not bad at all, that. Not bad at all. I think we'll go at that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try and get this video loaded up tonight. It's Friday today. I mean, it's going to be easy for all the lads in the UK to watch it if they've got nothing else to do. Tomorrow, if I say I won't start doing the Arbour until, say, lunchtime, that'll give people a chance to watch it and to come up with any suggestions. So we can sort of have a, let's call it a build along sort of thing, shall we? It'd be nice to see other people's thoughts and ideas. I'm just going to see if I can get a bit closer and show you this gauge working. So we just reposition the camera and then we'll have a look. Right, let's try that, shall we? Right, so if I bring that in fact, let's do it properly. Let's take it out altogether, like we mean to do, so drop it back in. So if I bring that round there to 0, like that, and then all I do, just to be doubly sure, right, see it dropping? Right, I'll keep winding the other way, watch for the highest point till it starts to go back down again. Which is there, isn't it? That works, an absolute treat that does. I'm just going to do that again just to make sure there's no jiggery pokery going on. Like I say, the little 3 grub screws that hold the gib in, I could actually make those a little bit tighter because it's not taking much to turn it. Well, let's go the other way then. Come on. Right, so that's dropping down. Wind it up, look for the highest point, which is right on 0, and then it starts to drop again, look. So that is, it's actually very repeatable, that, isn't it? So, let's get you guys moved out of the way a bit. I may have a little, I might just have a little bit more of a tinker with this tonight, we'll see. That's what I've been winding my cross slide backwards and forwards with. It's a little point now goes in the back of that handle, it's a lot easier. Now, I'll decide this later, whether to have a bit more of a go at that. I mean, you can see the blue there, you can see the blue there all the way around. I just would have liked it to have been touching this end just that little bit more, but like I say, there's no movement in that whatsoever, and that's the one that came with the machine. This one, no, see, there's nothing. I think I'm just going to leave it as it is. So I'll get this uploaded tonight, boys and girls. It might not be very fair to our American friends because I don't know what time well, actually, America's that bloody big, there's so many different time zones, isn't there, so 1 or 2 of them will get to watch it, I suppose. So tomorrow, what we're going to do tomorrow, we're going to put that in here, and all I'm thinking out loud at the moment is, I'm thinking between centres, so I'm thinking of putting that in the chuck, face it off, centre drill it, turn it round, do the same with that end, put it in centres, machine this end, put the taper on somewhere in the middle, and then we've got to, imagine this is that, but it obviously will be a lot wider, won't it? We've got to turn that down, put thread on it, left-handed, to suit, where's it gone? To suit that nut, so it's not very big, and then we should be able to tighten that on mesh. So we're just literally going to replicate what's on the end of the shaft over there. In fact, I'll just show you that now so you see what I'm on about. But yeah, we've got to replicate that. Look, sorry, the light's not particularly good here. So yeah, we've got a left-handed thread there, and there's a taper. I put a DTI gauge on here, and I was pulling this, yucking it backwards and forwards. I could get about 1,000 movement in it if I really tried, so I wouldn't have said it was too bad. So anyway, I'll look forward to your comments, see what you guys reckon, and then like I say, I'll most probably start this by sort of dinner time, 12 o'clock time tomorrow, and if any of you lads come up with any cunning suggestions, I'll be adopting them. If not, I'll carry on making it up as I go along. So anyway, look after yourselves, and we'll see you tomorrow. Oh, by the way, if whether you're a subscriber or whether you're not, if you can hit that thumbs up button at the end of the video, we'll see if it starts to make any difference with YouTube. I always, for a while, I thought it was just the comments that made the difference, but apparently it's not. That's not to say I'd to stop with the comments, because I do like reading the comments. So anyway, hit the thumbs up, boys, if you wouldn't mind, and we'll see you tomorrow.